Making is that that lake, that countryside surrounding, especially west of the Bann entered Lough Neagh and came out the other end of it. And when it rained, especially in the wintertime, it was impassable. You could swim it, but you certainly couldn't ford it with an army. So that's a great divider down there in Northern Ireland. In many ways, you cannot understand history without understanding geography. And in many ways, you have to go out and actually physically see it. Like, who is it that's, you're from Binburb? When you haven't been to Binburb yet, have you?
No.
Oh, well, it'll be a thrill of a lifetime for you to go to Binburb, because you can feel it. You know, it is a ben. You know, it has a high cliff, and it's like you can see why it's a little haven. You know, you can see why it's easily defended. You can see why Shane chose it as his headquarters. And it was nearer to Lough Neagh than Dungannon and stuff like that. Anyway, why did they I suppose that whoever held certain pieces of land, the really primo area would automatically be richer. They would have 30,000 head of cattle, whereas somebody else might be lucky if they could muster 10,000, simply because the land would hold it, and the fishing and so on. So it just was the prime piece of North, right in the heart of Ulster, Ulla. Ulster, you know, is the Normanized name for Ulla, which was the very, very old name for that portion of North. Again, everything north of those two places I just mentioned, north of Sligo and north of Armagh. Now, Carlingford Lough goes into very, very long natural deep water into Armagh. And Armagh is a port, way deep inside. And and as I said, then you have the few mountains, FEW, that's what they're called. And that narrow little spot, and everything all the way over through Enniskillen, all the way around to Sligo, is impenetrable. You're not going to get anything in there. So therefore, everything north of there is a natural unity. And that was Ulla. And I, of course, as you know, believe that it was all colonized from the west rather than from the east. And it's interesting that the most significant artifact left there is the Green O'Neill, which is the site of the O'Neills, because remember, the O'Neills were really the O'Donnells in a way. O'Neills were also in the Donegal O'Neills. So the ancient country, and they thought of themselves as a country of Ulla, became Ulster under the Normans, because Ster is a Norman name for a place. So Westminster, Colchester, all of the Sters. There's an awful lot of Sters in England, as you know. And there's only three names that in Ireland that where you'll hear the word Ulster, and they were the old provinces. Lion became Leinster, Ulla became Ulster, and Moon, the south, became Munster. Connacht was never. It didn't become Conster. You know, Connacht. Now, so therefore, for time immemorial, the clan that held that, or the people that held that area in Tyrone, would have been the chief kings. They would have the advantage over the rest. And the rest of them acknowledged that. Now that's what Shane wanted to re-establish, is his hegemony, if you like, over Ulla. And also they were very powerful, of course. Just Ulster was very powerful, and they were frequently accepted as the High Kings of Ireland, so that the Connachts, the Ulsters, Ulster and Connacht typically held the High Kingship, almost revolving. Probably more often Connacht than Ulster. Does that answer your question?
Well, maybe I'm asking too broad a question, but I was just wondering, the country seems to have been fragmented in that there were all these different clans or groups?
Well, no more than
that
any
did
other. No more than any. A great deal is made of that by the English because they have always tried to refute any suggestion that Ireland is a united and independent, or that it is an integral unit. Well, linguistically, nobody will dispute that there has, for as far back as any we can imagine, it has been Gaelic speaking. Now that's considered a stamp, if you like, of a nation. You know, the French did not become French until well after Clovis the Frank established his kingdom west of the Rhine. The Franks are from east of the Rhine. And in fact, France and Germany are both Frankish, and the Franks came from outside and east of the Rhine. Clovis came in and he established a Frankish kingdom in France, and he dominated but never outnumbered the old Gallo-Roman inhabitants. And they had an old Gaelic language, and the French language, the Franks became Gallo-Romanish, and they became and French speaking, and the Franks who remained in Germany became Germanic. And it's interesting that Clovis, the name for Clovis in French or in Gallo-Roman is Louis, and of course that is by far the most common or popular name, especially for royals in France ever since. And in Germany, on the other side, it's Ludwig. So language was very important. Now, nobody has ever suggested that there was multiple languages in Ireland. So that in itself is a very powerful. The other thing is they had all the Brehon laws. The Brehon laws were universal. So the same law applied on the southern tip of Cork and in the northern tip of Antrim or wherever. The Brehon laws were uniform throughout Ireland. Customs, clothing, all of the things that identifies a people, a nation, were uniform on the island of Ireland. You know, what more does one need than that?
No, I wouldn't.
I know what you mean. I'm not, but
Well, I mean, in other words, it was invaded so many different times. Why didn't the whole country unite all of these groups to repel all these invasions?
well, it did to an extraordinary degree, actually, because what it did is it absorbed a tremendous number of invasions, but never really fundamentally changed, and to this day really hasn't fundamentally changed, despite the fact that tomorrow is probably as sad a day as has occurred in 400 years since the flight of the Earls. They're going to re-establish the, and I know everybody thinks it's a wonderful thing, but I don't, English rule, official English rule in Stormont and Belfast. Sorry, Mayor. Yeah.
Well, I was saying, didn't the families unite when they went to try to rout the English at the Battle of Kinsale?
The fact that Hugh O'Neill became the O'Neill speaks a great deal to what you're saying. They did unite because he was probably a very unlikely leader, and especially a leader of the entire country. He was considered at the Battle of the Kinsale to be the Irish leader. So the fact that they, at the time of trouble, they did unite behind a strong leader. They did it with Brian Boru. They did it quite a number of times, and all the way down through Daniel O'Connell or wherever. And it wasn't until relatively modern times that their country has been split north and south. And of course, as you know, Ulster is by far the most Gaelic and the most Irish of all of the areas of Ireland. So I think that it's fair to say that Ireland has maintained its integrity over the centuries and over the millennia as much, if not better, than any other European country I can think of. Because it was only very recently that Germany and Italy, when I say recently, in the late 19th century, became united. They were all a myriad of principalities.